Greetings, traveler. Do you ever feel that you're stuck in a job that is not suited for you, it's not suited for your skill set, and moreover, you don't have an idea of how to get out of it and into the dream job that you always wanted? Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how this situation happens, how people sometimes find themselves in this place, and then we're going to talk about a super straightforward and simple framework for reconfiguring uh, life, career, CV presentation, and so on to be perfectly poised to hunt for that next dream job. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 14 years now, and myself and other people that I have spoken with have found ourselves in the position where for every new position we get, it's better in terms of salary, perhaps it's a bigger company, perhaps it's a bigger project, but it's not necessarily the position and the type of project we always dreamed of. We talk about how we always wanted to make this or that game, how we have all these skills that we collected in our own time because we're so interested in this thing, and no matter how much we hone these skills, we never get an opportunity to show them, and we never get to work on the kinds of projects we always dreamed of. So after talking to a lot of people and after looking back at my experiences, I try to find a common denominator for why this happens and how we find ourselves in this situation in the first place. The key component that seems to be always there is a basic experience that sets someone down a specific career path. For example, let's say that someone has a computer science background, so probably they will go into programming when graduating, and they will keep getting programming type jobs. Sure, they might be able to go into more of a manager role or more of a doer, coder kind of role, and there's a few fields where they can work in, but they feel confined in this type of environment and in this type of role. So how does this happen exactly? Why does someone with a certain background keep getting jobs in the same track and not being able to change, even if they want to become, let's say, an artist in the future, or a game designer, or a different type of engineer, or anything really? The deciding moment is, of course, the interviews. Now, I've spoken before about how suboptimal most companies' interview process is, but setting that aside for a moment, let me know, by the way, if you want to know more about that in a future video. But setting that aside for a moment, taking a look at how the interview process happens right now, most places will start by asking for someone's previous experience. So they will take a look at the previous experience and they will try to find a common track, a common denominator for all the previous experience. So let's say if you have always been working as a game designer in soccer games or in sports games, then if you suddenly apply for, let's say, a puzzle game, a game director role for a puzzle game, then you can see how, yes, it's still good that you're coming from the games industry, so it's at least the same industry, but specific skills wise, the previous skill set or the skill set that someone has built up to now like this might not be an obvious match for this assumed role of game director for a puzzle game. So I know that this doesn't make sense from the point of view of the person applying for the job, and perhaps that person in his own time has been playing puzzle games like crazy. He just loves them so much. He has all these ideas for interesting puzzle games. He has made a few prototypes here and there, but since that was not his main job, not something he can put in his CV, then the person interviewing has no idea about all that. And even if that person takes the extra effort to showcase all the skills he has built in his own time, how much he loves puzzle games and so on, that evidence is nowhere near as compelling as the whatever 2, 3, 5, 10 years of his existing previous work experience. There is one exception here, and that exception is if you have actually built a really good prototype that showcases your skills, that is a really good way to get the message across of what you want to do from now on and what your real skill set is. But that by itself is again a very small piece of evidence versus the perhaps decade-long or more previous experience you had in a different style of career. So this about covers how it happens. It usually starts from university, and the jobs you get after university put you down in a certain track to follow afterwards. Now, does this necessarily have to be the case? No, it doesn't have to be the case. In my case, I studied computer science in university, but after university, the first job I got was as a game tester, in fact. And then I moved to engineer, and then I moved to game designer, which is the kind of role that I wanted to do, and then game director and so on. So, in my experience, I can definitely say that it's possible to change the kind of track that your career is taking you down towards, but it needs a very specific type of presentation to show off your skills and show off what you can do from here on out. So let's talk about that. How do you change the previous experience that you have to showcase that even though you've had this experience, actually you would be really, really good in this new type of role? Well, CVs are all about showcasing a certain skill set, right? So in any given position, there's multiple skills that you get to use. You get to use your technical skills, you get to use your people skills, you get to use your management and organization skills. You might be in a leadership role. Even if you aren't in a leadership role, perhaps you take a leadership position unofficially, but when you have to lead a project or design a feature or deliver on something. So the more you look at your previous experience in that sort of lens, the more you see that actually it's not just one title that defines what you do and what you're good at. It's actually a collection of skills that's there, that's labeled a certain way, and most people usually put the label of their previous job as the title of that position. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So if, let's say, someone is an engineer for a long time, then perhaps during his time as an engineer in a game project, perhaps he had some input in the game design of the game, or perhaps he managed to develop some tools for artists, or he had some other experience outside of what the job role seems to suggest. So the first step is reconfiguring the CV to showcase what you want to showcase, right? So if you want to say that, yes, you've been working as an engineer or a game designer or whatever, but actually your main focus was art, for example, then for every previous position, without changing what the position was, highlight what relevant experience to art you managed to acquire in every position. And here you might be tempted to think, but shouldn't I talk about all the main roles or the main tasks of the jobs I had? You can, but this will just paint a different image of yourself, and it ultimately doesn't help you in the future. So the goal here is not to say something that wasn't true. In fact, it's to highlight the real part of your experience, which is most relevant to what you want to do next. So regardless of what specific tasks the previous roles involved, you want to highlight the ones that are closer to where you want to go in the future. So if in the future you want to be doing more art related roles, then for every position, then you would highlight what art related tasks and achievements you had over this time. So this is covering what the CV situation should look like. And the other part of this is, well, now that you have updated your CV and perhaps included your own personal prototypes and own projects that are in line with what you want to do in the future, then how do you find this company? How do you find this position that is in line with what you want to do? And this is why the CV preparation is so important, because when you do manage to find a company that matches what you want to do, and you do get the interview, then the conversation will most likely start from the CV. Of course, it's possible to take it in any direction you want during the discussion, but it's probably going to start from there. And if you have the CV to highlight what you want to focus the conversation on, then this is very likely what the interviewer will ask about. So if you only talk about, let's say, your art-related experience, and you show some art that you have created, then it's very easy to imagine how that interview conversation will go very much down the art track versus whatever the previous positions entailed other than art. So the next question becomes, well, okay, after someone has reconfigured their CV to highlight what they want to highlight, how do you actually find this company with a dream position, and how do you approach them and get them to talk to you and offer an interview? Well, quite simply, applying is the very, very, very first and most important step. Most people, in my experience, even though they know there's companies out there that do the role or offer the role that they're always dreaming of, they, without ever attempting to contact that company, essentially count themselves out, and they think, oh, I would never be able to get that. I don't have any relevant experience. They wouldn't be interested in me. I don't have a 10-year whatever experience prerequisite that they're asking for. There's no point even applying. And that is what I found to be the biggest misconception around this topic. Having been in this industry for so much time now, and having spoken to probably thousands of people in it by now, both people actually doing the work and recruiters who are specifically every day working for placing people in positions like that, I have found that a person who is super motivated to do the work in a certain position, and they have enough focus to be able to represent their skills in the CV in the way that's relevant to that position, has a way better chance of getting that position versus someone who has been doing it and is simply looking for their next position. When people are looking for candidates for positions, yes, experience is definitely a plus. If you happen to have the perfect experience for this job, of course that's a plus. But something that's rare is motivation and excitement for a certain position. Most people in society, even in the games industry, they're not super excited for doing a particular job. They see a job as a means of just getting money to survive, which of course it is, but it can be so much more. And probably in the games industry more than other places, we also get to channel our creativity, our love for games, our passion for showing the world something new, and so on. And believe it or not, even in the games industry, most people, when they interview for a position, they never show that. They just say, oh, I've been doing this up to now, could you please hire me? It doesn't do much to show the interviewer that how motivated you are for this position and how much you have prepared for this position. So this is again where the CV preparation is so important, right? It's not just that a person has the skill or says they have the skill, they also demonstrate how they think about the position, where they show they understand the needs of their dream position, what the tasks are supposed to be. They show that they have done projects outside of their job to show that they're really interested in this and they just have a natural passion for it. And in the CV, they can show that all their experience up to now simply expose them to different parts of the industry with the ultimate goal of getting this one specific position. So when selecting the company and selecting the position to apply for presumably what is a dream job, then simply going for it, believe it or not, is the biggest step. And you might think, oh yeah, but there's thousands of people applying. Yes, there are thousands of people potentially applying, but you can trust that 99.9% of them simply wrote in their CV whatever they did in the past, relevant or not. And then when they get to the interview, they don't really get to talk about their skills and their passion. They simply answer the questions of the interviewer about typically what their previous positions were like, which leads the conversation down a very unrelated path. If by contrast you can present your CV in a way that's relevant to the position, regardless of what the previous jobs were actually like, and you can show that you've done a few projects on your own time and you can present them during the interview, then this very much focuses the discussion during the interview towards what you want to be talking about, which is showcasing how everything you've done up to now has been essentially a preparation for this one dream role. Hopefully this will get you motivated. Hopefully this will get you excited. Your passion is going to show during the interview. You have prepared for this interview, so this is going to set you apart from the sea of people who are simply looking for the next job, either because they lost the previous job or because they hate their current job so much that they would rather do anything else, which unfortunately it's a lot of people. Anyway, so this is what I have learned. This is what I have noticed in my time so far in the games industry. Also, this is the feedback I get from recruiters who are actually placing people in these positions. They're recommending people to companies for these work opportunities, and this seems to be very much a common thing out there. And because this type of unconscious approach is so common out there, showing that you're conscious, showing that you're targeted and passionate and willing to showcase why you're so good about it will easily set you apart from basically everybody else out there. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you have questions about this process, I know this is very high level and it can get very technical, very tactical about how you lead the conversation, how you can change the topic, how you can prepare in personal projects, or how you can brush up your CV. If there's something I can answer, I would be happy to. Please let me know down in the comments. Anyway, that's it for today, and as always, have fun.